Have you ever found yourself sitting in a quiet room, the clock ticking louder than ever, and suddenly you realize that silence isn't just silence anymore? It's a reminder of the person who's no longer there? Maybe you felt that ache in your chest when you reach for the phone to share a story, only to remember they won't pick up. Or perhaps you've wondered, how do I even begin to rebuild a life that feels so empty now? If that's where you are today, I want you to know something. You're not alone. Not even close. Losing a spouse is one of the hardest things any of us will ever face. It's like losing a part of yourself. The person who knew your stories, your quirks, the quiet moments that made up your life. And that loneliness can feel suffocating. But here's what I want you to hold on to. Healing is possible. You don't have to stay stuck in that pain forever. Today we're going to walk through 5 gentle, practical steps to help you move forward, not to replace what you've lost, but to honor it while rediscovering joy, connection, and even companionship again. These aren't quick fixes or empty platitudes. They're tools that countless others in your shoes have used to rebuild their lives, and I know they can work for you too. Let's start with the first step, and honestly, this might be the hardest one of all. Step 1 is simply this: give yourself permission to grieve. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Isn't that obvious? But here's the thing, so many of us try to rush through grief. We tell ourselves, it's been 6 months, a year, I should be over this by now. Or worse, we let others dictate our timeline. You need to get out more, you have to stay busy, don't dwell on the past. But here's the truth, grief isn't a checklist. It doesn't care about calendars. Some days you'll feel okay, almost normal. Other days it'll hit you like a wave, and that's okay. What's important is that you let yourself feel those emotions without judgment. Cry when you need to. Sit with the memories. Talk to their photograph if it helps. One woman I know, Margaret, she's 72, told me she still sets a place for her husband at dinner every Sunday. It's not that I think he's there, she said. It's that Sundays were our day. This helps me remember the good times instead of focusing on the loss. Now, does that mean you should stay in grief forever? Of course not. But trying to skip over it? That's like putting a bandage on a wound that needs air to heal. So today I want you to try this. Set aside 10 minutes, just 10 minutes, to actively grieve. Write a letter to your spouse. Look through old photos. Light a candle and tell them what you wish they could see in your life now. Then when the timer goes off, take a deep breath and step back into your day. Little by little, this practice helps you honor the loss without letting it consume you. Now, once you've made space for grief, step 2 becomes possible. Reach out even when every bone in your body resists it. I know, easier said than done, right? After loss, isolation can feel safer. Nobody understands, we tell ourselves. I don't want to burden anyone. But here's what happens when we shut people out. The loneliness grows. It becomes a habit. So let's start small. This week, try one tiny act of connection. Maybe it's calling a friend you haven't spoken to in years and saying, I've missed you. Maybe it's joining a grief support group, even an online one, where you can just listen at first. One gentleman, Frank, told me he started by going to the same coffee shop every Tuesday. I didn't talk to anyone for weeks, he said, but just being around people laughing, living, it reminded me I wasn't alone. And here's a secret, people want to help. They just don't always know how. So give them a clue. Instead of saying, I'm fine, try, honestly, today's been tough. Would you sit with me for a bit? Or, could you tell me a story about your spouse? I miss hearing their name. You'll be surprised how many hearts open when you let yours show. Now, before we go further, I want to pause here. These first 2 steps, allowing yourself to grieve and reaching out, they're the foundation. They're not about fixing anything overnight. They're about creating cracks in that wall of loneliness so light can start to get in. In the next part, we'll talk about rediscovering pieces of yourself that grief might have buried, the hobbies, passions, or even new interests that can help you feel alive again. But for now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you tried something like Margaret's Sunday dinners or Frank's coffee shop routine? Or maybe you found another way to honor your loss while staying connected. Share it in the comments below. Your story could be the lifeline someone else needs today. And if you're feeling even a flicker of hope right now, hold on to that. We're just getting started. Together, we'll keep walking this path forward, one gentle step at a time. You know, one of the most surprising things about grief is how it can make us forget who we are outside of loss. It's like part of us gets buried alongside the person we loved. The part that laughed at bad jokes or loved gardening or stayed up late reading mystery novels. But here's the beautiful thing. Those parts of you, they're still there. They might feel dusty or out of reach right now, but they haven't disappeared. And that brings us to step 3. Rediscover what makes you feel alive. Now, I'll be honest, this step isn't about suddenly signing up for skydiving or overhauling your entire life. It's about starting small. Think back to a time before the loss. What did you enjoy doing just for you? Maybe it was painting or cooking or even something as simple as sitting outside with a cup of tea and watching the birds. For my friend Helen, it was her piano. After her husband passed, she didn't touch it for nearly 2 years. It felt wrong to play without him listening, she told me. But one day she sat down and played just one note, then a chord, then a whole song. It wasn't about him anymore, she said. It was about me remembering how to feel joy again. So here's your challenge this week. Pick one thing, just one, that used to bring you peace or happiness, and give yourself permission to try it again. Dust off the knitting needles. Walk to the park bench where you used to read. Don't worry if it feels strange or bittersweet at first. That's normal. The goal isn't to fix anything. It's to remind yourself that joy can still exist alongside grief. Now, once you've started reconnecting with old joys, step 4 becomes easier. Create space for something new. I know what you're thinking. New? Right now? I'm just trying to get through the day. But hear me out. Trying something unfamiliar, even something tiny, can shift your perspective in ways you'd never expect. It doesn't have to be grand. It could be as simple as planting a new type of flower in your garden, trying a recipe from a different culture, or even changing your morning routine. Take my neighbor Walter. After losing his wife, he felt like his days had no structure. So he started a ritual. Every morning he'd walk to the mailbox, not to check for letters but to greet the sunrise. Some days I'd just stand there for 2 minutes, he said. But those 2 minutes made me feel like I had a reason to get out of bed. Over time, those walks grew longer. He started noticing neighbors, then chatting with them, and eventually joined a local walking group. I never thought I'd make friends at 78, he laughed. But here I am. The key here is to experiment without pressure. Maybe you'll try a watercolor class and hate it. That's okay. The point is to shake up the routine that grief has carved into your days. When we do the same things in the same empty spaces, loneliness festers. But when we introduce newness, even a tiny spark of it, we remind ourselves that life still holds surprises. And here's something important. You don't have to do this alone. That's where companionship comes in, not just from old friends but from new connections. Maybe it's adopting a pet. A cat's purr can work wonders for a heavy heart, volunteering at the library, or even striking up a conversation with the person ahead of you in the grocery line. These small interactions act like stitches, slowly weaving you back into the fabric of life. But I want to pause here for a moment. If you're feeling overwhelmed, that's okay. This isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about gently reshaping what's already there. Maybe today, creating something new means trying a different brand of tea or sitting in a new chair by the window. Progress isn't measured in big leaps. It's measured in moments where you think, well, this doesn't feel quite as heavy as before. In the next part, we'll talk about step 5, the one that ties all of this together and helps you build a life that honors your past while embracing your future. But until then, I'd love to hear, what's one small new thing you could try this week? Or maybe you've already started. Share it below, even if it's as simple as, I sat on the porch today instead of staying inside. Every step counts, and every step is worth celebrating. You've probably noticed by now that healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about weaving it into a new kind of life. A life where grief and joy can sit side by side, where memories become stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks. And that brings us to our final step. Take a small risk every day to open your heart again. Now, I know what you're thinking. A risk? After everything I've lost. Trust me, I get it. Vulnerability can feel terrifying when your heart's still tender. But here's the beautiful part. These risks don't have to be grand gestures. They're tiny, deliberate choices to let the world back in. Let me tell you about Clara. She's 68 and lost her husband of 45 years to cancer. For months, she couldn't imagine ever laughing again, let alone connecting with someone new. But one day, she took what felt like a monumental risk. She said yes to a neighbor's invitation to join a weekly crossword puzzle group. I almost canceled 3 times, she admitted. But walking into that room? It felt like stepping into sunlight after years in the dark. Slowly, those puzzle nights became more than just games. They became a bridge to friendship, to shared stories, even to planning a community garden with her new friends. Your risk might look different. Maybe it's texting an old colleague to meet for lunch. Maybe it's signing up for a pottery class, even if you're convinced you'll be the only beginner. Or maybe it's something as quiet as saying hello to the person who walks their dog past your house every afternoon. The key is to start with what feels almost manageable. Not easy, just not impossible. And here's something important. Rejection or awkwardness isn't failure, it's data. If you try something and it doesn't click, that's okay. You still won because you proved to yourself that you can try. My friend Tom at 71 joined a dance class and hated it. Turns out I'm terrible at the tango, he laughed. But I met a guy there who invited me to his chess club. Now that's stuck. This step isn't about replacing your spouse or moving on in some dramatic way. It's about gently stretching the edges of your world to make room for connection again. Because here's the truth, love isn't a finite resource. Opening your heart to new people doesn't diminish what you had, it honors it. Your capacity to care, to laugh, to share stories, that's still there waiting to be rediscovered. Now let's tie all 5 steps together. First, you gave yourself permission to grieve. Then you reached out even when it felt impossible. You rediscovered old joys and dared to try something new. And now you're taking those brave little risks to rebuild connection. Together, these steps aren't a checklist, they're a rhythm. Some days you'll lean into them, other days you'll need to rest. And that's okay. Healing isn't linear. If you take nothing else from this, remember this. You are allowed to miss someone deeply and find moments of happiness. You're allowed to cherish your past and curiosity about your future. Loneliness might still visit, but it doesn't have to move in permanently. So what now? Start small. Tomorrow, try one of these steps. Write a letter to your spouse, call a friend, pick up a forgotten hobby, or say yes to an invitation. And if today feels too heavy, that's all right. Come back to this when you're ready. Healing isn't a race. Before we close, I want to leave you with this. Your story isn't over. There are still chapters to write. Ones filled with quiet mornings that feel peaceful instead of empty, with laughter that surprises you, with connections that remind you how deeply you're capable of living. I'd love to hear how these steps are unfolding for you. Did you try a new hobby? Reach out to someone? Or maybe you're still mustering the courage, and that's okay too. Share your journey in the comments below. Your words might be the nudge someone else needs to take their first step. And if you found even one helpful idea here, consider sharing this video with someone who might need it. Together, we can remind each other that no one has to walk this path alone. Here's to your courage, your resilience, and the beautiful, unexpected moments of joy still waiting for you, just around the corner. You've probably noticed by now that healing isn't a destination, it's a journey. Some days the road feels smooth, almost peaceful. Other days it's steep and rocky, and you might wonder if you've made any progress at all. But here's the thing, every step you've taken, every tear shed, every conversation started, every tiny risk, has been quietly rebuilding your life. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought. Your capacity for love and joy isn't tied to the past. It grows with every choice you make to keep living. Let's take a moment to look back at how far you've come. You've learned to let grief exist without letting it define you. You've reached out even when it felt impossible. You've rediscovered parts of yourself you thought were lost and dared to try something new. And most importantly, you've started opening your heart again, not to replace what was, but to honor the fact that your story isn't finished yet. Now you might be thinking, but what if I stumble? What if the loneliness creeps back in? Let me tell you about Ruth. At 80, she'd been widowed for 5 years when she joined a book club. For months, she barely spoke. Then one night, she shared a story about her late husband's obsession with mystery novels. The room erupted in laughter, her laughter mixed with theirs. It wasn't about forgetting him, she said. It was about realizing I could still be me, the woman he loved, even without him here. That's the heart of all this. You're not building a new life over the old one. You're expanding it like a garden that grows around a beloved tree. The roots of your love remain, but there's space now for new blooms, conversations that surprise you, hobbies that reignite your curiosity, friendships that feel like sunlight after rain. So what's next? Keep leaning into those 5 steps, but don't treat them like rules. Some days, giving yourself permission to grieve might mean canceling plans to rest. Other days, taking a risk could mean volunteering at an animal shelter and letting a puppy's enthusiasm remind you how good it feels to laugh. There's no right or wrong way, only your way. And if you ever doubt whether you're doing it right, remember this: healing isn't about perfection. It's about showing up for yourself, day after day, even if all you can manage is a single small act of courage. Maybe that's texting a friend, "I'm having a hard day." Maybe it's sitting in a park and smiling at a stranger. Or maybe it's simply saying to yourself, "I'm still here and that's enough." Before we go, I want to thank you for your courage, your resilience, and the quiet strength it takes to keep moving forward. If you've made it this far, you've already proven something incredible. You're willing to fight for your happiness even on the days when it feels out of reach. Now, I'd love to hear your story. How have these steps shaped your journey? Did a hobby surprise you? Did a conversation spark a new friendship? Or maybe you're still in the just getting out of bed phase, and that's okay. Share it all in the comments. Your words might be the hope someone else needs to keep going. And if this video helped you, pass it along. You never know who might be sitting in a quiet room right now, thinking they're alone in this. Together, we can remind each other that love never really leaves us. It just changes shape, guiding us toward new beginnings. Here's to your next chapter, to the quiet joys waiting around the corner, and to the truth that you are always worthy of love, laughter, and a life that feels full again. Thank you for letting me walk this path with you.